Dortmund want Sancho replacement. PSG are champions. Donnarumma's offered a new deal. Tonali to become one of the world's best, and a transfer roundup all coming up in the next few minutes. As I'm your host, Matt Froelich, you are the Onefootballers, and this is the Daily News. So first up, and after reports yesterday that Borussia Dortmund are willing to let Sancho go, apparently they've already identified a replacement in the form of 17-year-old wonder kid Ansu Fati. Now, of course, I know what you're thinking. There's no way that Barcelona are going to be like, hey, have one of our best products in years from the youth academy. Sure, take him, why not? Apparently the deal will only be a loan, or they're going to send him to Dortmund, but with a buyback clause. This is pretty much standard procedure from Barcelona. Every time they're selling a young player, which they think isn't quite ready just yet, but could go on to be an absolute superstar, they have a buyback clause. Now, this obviously doesn't really bode too well for Dortmund. I mean, technically, they could sell Sancho, buy Fati, he'd be brilliant, and then Barcelona would just sign him back. But you think about it, that's really what Dortmund have been doing in the last few years. They take a great player, make him even better, and then sell him on for a lot more money. The only problem is that, you don't know how much the buyback clause will be in Ansu Fati's deal. Anyway, should they sell Jadon Sancho, they're obviously going to have a massive gap, but I'm not overly sure whether the 17-year-old Fati can fill it. Don't get me wrong, he's been brilliant since he's come into the team. He's shown real prospects. I have no doubt he'll go on to be a good player. But filling the shoes of Jadon Sancho, and by the way, Sancho's putting in ridiculous numbers consistently for like 2 seasons now, that's going to be rather difficult. Having said that, I do think with the money that Dortmund get from Sancho, I wouldn't put it past them to go and sign somebody else. I mean, not necessarily who's going to stand in the way of Fati, but someone who can provide competition, and should the youngster, I don't know, play too many games or it's a lot of pressure for him, they can have a more experienced player come into the squad. Anyway, next up, and following on from the news in the last few days that Liga was cancelled, well, they've now decided that PSG are champions. They sit quite a fair few points ahead of Marseille in second place, but that's not really the big deal. The big deal is that they've also decided to add relegation to the list of things at the end of the season. That includes Nîmes, Amiens and Toulouse, who are all now been relegated to the second division of French football. This, to me, seems extraordinarily harsh, and this is what we've been talking about the Premier League basically they shouldn't be doing. I mean, in Nîmes' case especially, they were 3 points off safety with 30 points to play for. Like, it's not even like they were miles away. Toulouse was something like 17 or 18 points off. Like, I get that, fine. But there is no way that you could say, oh, you know what, they deserve to be relegated without 10 games to play. The way the Eredivisie have done it, with no promotion or relegation, that seems to be the way forward for me. I mean, Serie A have come out and said that they'd probably follow Liga's example as well, meaning Juventus would be champions yet again. I'm starting to see sort of a trend in the fact that no one really care if a team is so far ahead and they were given the champions. Like, Liverpool were 25 points ahead. No one cares if they get the title. Like, they're so far ahead, they're obviously going to do it. Even though you never know what happens in football, you'd assume that they'd win 2 out of their last 10 games. But when it comes to relegation, as we mentioned before, with Villa being having played 1 game less than the rest of them, and they could have moved out if they win it, this would seem extraordinarily harsh, especially with the other places like Champions League spots, Europa League spots as well. If you're going to cancel the season, I think you might as well void it, because you can't also, on top of this, you can't just have one decision for one team and not for the rest. Like, you can't give Liverpool the champions and Leicester City and Chelsea the Champions League spots, but also say the relegation spots don't matter and you guys can just stay in the division. On top of this, it looks like no one is willing to extend the season by having more teams in the league. Now, Liga could have had a few teams promoted, same with Serie A, with the Premier League to have like 22 or 23 team campaigns. That would cause even more of a backlog, with the teams then playing around 44 matches next season. And when you consider there's already quite a tight schedule, especially in England, and especially as they're going to want to be finished before the Euros, that is definitely off the table. Anyway, as for return to action, the Premier League is still working on a return for the 8th of June. Germany will be deciding in the next few days in the government whether or not the Bundesliga will return, and the same thing is likely to happen in the next few days with Serie A as well. But moving on, and actually talking of Serie A, to some big transfer news coming out of AC Milan, where Donnarumma has been offered a new deal. The goalkeeper did originally have a contract which was running out next summer, so AC Milan, rather bizarrely, have only offered him an extra year on this contract. The new one would run to 2022, and on top of that, he'd have €1 million less per season. Now, this drop in wages is basically compensated by the fact that there is a huge bonus for Donnarumma should AC Milan qualify for the Champions League. Of course, that's rather difficult to do this season if the season is to be cancelled, but next season especially. I know that they definitely don't want to lose him on a free transfer. He is one of their gems and certainly could fetch him quite a handsome fee should he be sold, with the likes of Chelsea, Juventus and PSG all interested. But why then offer him only one more year? I mean, surely they're just going to be facing the same problem next year, and if he's really sick and tired of AC, then he'll just stick it out and definitely leave on a free. I'm not so sure it's the smartest deal in context to the length of the deal, but certainly taking a bit of money off his wage is probably quite smart from the club's point of view. Whether or not he'll accept it though, that's a completely different matter after all, especially as his agent is Mino Raiola. But sticking with Serie A and Francesco Totti, the legendary midfielder who knows a thing or two about being a rather good player, has backed Brescia midfielder Sandro Tonali to become as good as Lampard or Gerrard, one of the best midfielders in the world. Now, Inter Milan certainly domestically seem to be leading the race and are willing to offer quite a few players to Brescia who would be relegated if Serie A decided to have relegation in return for Sandro Tonali. Now, the midfielder, according to Totti, has great turn of pace, is brilliant on the ball and has such composure no matter what game they are playing in. All the hallmarks of a pretty good midfielder if you ask me. Again, on top of this, he's so young and, well, he has so many years to learn, so many different things about football, and where better to learn than Inter Milan with some top quality midfielders in their side as well. Of course, on the flip side of this, like I do say with all young players, they definitely need to be playing. There's no way that Tonali should move to Inter Milan if he's going to sit on the bench. But I'm pretty sure that they know all about his talents and would definitely, he'd definitely be advised to move to a team where he knows he's going to play football. I'm sure that if he went into contract negotiations and they're like, yeah, you're going to sit on the bench and get 1 or 2 cut games, he definitely wouldn't move. Anyway, all the likeness to Pirlo has been made not only in his looks, but his style of play as well. And if Inter manage to get the next Pirlo on their hands, well, they'll be in a pretty good position moving forward. So lastly but not least, a quick roundup of the rest of the day's transfer, where AC Milan and Arsenal are going to battle it out for Betis' Nabil Fekir in the upcoming transfer window. Ryan Fraser of Bournemouth, whose contract is expiring in the summer, has apparently told close friends that his preferred destination is to join Tottenham. Ricardo Pereira has guaranteed Leicester fans he'll be staying at the club as long as they secure Champions League football, and Aston Villa's Conor Hourihane has said that teammate Jack Grealish's departure from the club is only in a matter of time. So there you have it, that's all from me for today. Make sure you let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, smash the like button whilst you're at it, and check out all of our other stuff on OneFootball by clicking here or here. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, have a great weekend, stay safe, and I'll see you guys Monday.